Welcome back to our mornings and part 2 for our viewer discussion, which is all about Christians and exercise today. We've already received a number of messages from you, which has been so encouraging. Your testimonies, your experiences of exercise and how it has benefited you, and also some scripture verses that have come in already. So that is just wonderful. Do keep your thoughts coming in. Also any prayer requests. In part 2 we have our time of prayer, so it would be an honour and a privilege to lift your needs before the Lord this morning. So some of the things that would be really good to hear from you about are, because our question is, should exercise be important to Christians? And you might say, well, exercise should be important to everybody, but what we're really getting at here is how much of a priority should it be in terms of the Christian life? Does it actually detract at all from our pursuit of godliness, Christ-likeness, serving the kingdom of God? What are your thoughts on stewarding of our bodies? Other people's experience of exercise, and whether you have testimonies of how this has really helped you in terms of your health, and also any Bible verses that you find helpful in this area. Do keep your messages coming in. It's always great to hear from you on the program. So Richard, do you have any opening thoughts for us as we begin this discussion on Christians and exercise?
Well, I think everybody should exercise, actually. Most of us live a sort of sedentary life. I have a very sedentary life sitting in front of a computer, but I have a lifelong habit of doing an hour's exercise every day. I probably don't exercise quite as much, as hard as I used to, but I like to go out to the gym or go walking every single day for at least an hour. And I use that hour actually to either listen to sermons or worship music, or sometimes just ordinary films, but whatever. I find it's a really useful time. Ideally, it's better to be in the fresh air, but sometimes it's pouring rain, so the gym works better when it's pouring a rain. I think it's just a wonderful thing to do, but our opening scripture says that godliness is more important, and we mustn't get so tied up with our fitness that we lose sight of godliness.
That is wonderful, Richard. You've said a number of really helpful things there. The first is, I like the way that you've made this point about combining exercise and our physical health with our spiritual health, and the way that we can actually use that time to listen to worship music, to have a heart of worship during that time, or to be really engaging with teaching, so feeding our spirits at the same time as walking or running on a treadmill or using a cross trainer. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And you know which verse I thought of when you said that? It's in Ephesians. It's Ephesians 5:16, and it talks about redeeming the time, or another translation says, make the best use of time. So I think that's definitely true of what you're saying. There is that possibility of doing both. And I also liked what you said about the way that many of us actually live very sedentary lives, and it's really true, because our bodies weren't designed to be this sedentary. Many of us sit for most of the day, whether it's that we work in offices or we sit at our desks doing other forms of work, a lot of television in the evening, sedentary activities in that respect. So really a lot of the time we are not moving. We're not even really incorporating kind of a lot of daily activity, really. And it's interesting that you should make that point for a couple of reasons. The first is that we've received a message from a viewer along those lines as well. This is from Jane. Jane, thank you so much. You've said here, people used to exercise naturally. So she's saying the same thing. Walking everywhere and doing everything manually. Our bodies are designed to exercise. So these days we have to make more effort. God bless Jane. Jane, that is really helpful that you've pointed that out as well. And the thing is, Richard, this ties up really nicely with this excerpt that I have from this book. Now, when I was really involved in the fitness industry all those years ago, I was very interested in the writing of a lovely Christian wellness instructor based in Nashville. She was also a musician. Sadly, in the meantime, well, I should say she's gone to be with the Lord, so wonderful for her. But she's written very inspiring books in the area of health and wellness. And in one of these books, she really helpfully draws this contrast between our focus on exercise in the 21st century and our need of it because of our sedentary lives, compared with her grandparents at the turn of last century, who were farmers, and they worked on the land. And she highlights in a very beautiful way how much daily activity was a natural part of their lives. And it's really quite staggering, but it's so beautifully written that I thought that I might just take some time to read it. So the author's name is Ruth McGuinness, and it comes from a book called Living the Good Life. And so she really she begins by saying, my grandpa and grandma Huber would be stupefied by the lifestyles that we lead today, especially in the way that we approach fitting in an exercise program. By the time I was born in 1957, my grandparents were well into their 70s, and I'm sure neither of them had ever seen, let alone been on a treadmill. They probably would think we'd all taken leave of our senses given the money and angst our generation spend on exercise. For my grandparents, exercise was a way of life, not so much a choice as a necessity from early in the morning until the sun went down at night. She says here, Grandpa was up by 4:30 or 5 o'clock almost every morning. First thing, he would head to the barn, feed and milk the cows, separate the milk and feed the hogs and chickens, all before breakfast, which was at 7. After that, he'd be in the fields where he planted, raised and harvested alfalfa, corn and wheat. During the winter, he harvested ice, 50-pound chunks that he would cut from the frozen river and lift out with huge ice tongs, coat with sawdust, and store in the ice house. He was physically active, extremely so by our standards, all day, every day, most of his life. Grandma's days were no less active. She was up every morning at the crack of dawn, kneading dough for the breads, biscuits and pies that she baked daily. She'd be up and down the cellar stairs many times a day to store food or get a jar of preserves or canned food. 1/3 of the basement was used to store the canned fruits, vegetables and meats that she put up all year long. In addition to all the food preparation and housekeeping, she sewed every stitch of clothing the family wore. She made quilts and knitted and crocheted. Think of the effort it took to wash, wring, dry and iron a load of laundry in those days without the electronic appliances that we take for granted. Just a really lovely scene that she creates of her grandparents' lives. And really, if you begin to think about how active they were, they must have been absolutely exhausted, but in a really good sense by the end of the day. And then she describes how in the evenings that they would really rest. There wasn't the invasion of television and electronics. They would talk together, or they would read, or she said play checkers. It just sounded so kind of idyllic and peaceful, and so much less stressful without all of those kinds of interruptions as well. So I thought it was a really lovely way to kind of paint this picture that in previous generations there was that possibility of being more active, and maybe it's something that we can strive for in our own lives. Maybe not to this extent, but maybe it is something that we could strive more for. What do you think?
I thought that was a wonderful article, actually. I just think it's wonderful. I read something somewhere that before the First World War, 90% in the UK we're talking about, 90% of people, working people, worked on the land.
Yeah.
90%, because industry wasn't a big thing in those days. Now, the number of people who actually work on the land is about 2%. So it's a huge reversal of things. And, well, I'm very aware of it myself because I spend far too long sitting in front of a computer. That's why I like to go and do some exercise. However, you kept very quiet because I know you go out and go a lot of walking. And when you're walking, you listen to your phone and listen to worship music and sermons. Am I right?
I do, absolutely. Yeah,
I
I
mustn't
love
hide
doing
your
that.
light under a bushel.
I love doing that, and ideally I love to go to the gym as much as possible. A number of years ago, I actually was an avid gym goer, and I'd go every day, and particularly when I was instructing, I would actually train first thing in the morning and then obviously be teaching as well. But as the years have gone by and my life's changed, and also I've got older since then, it was quite high impact that I would do.
Don't look older.
I found that I've had to adjust the kind of exercise that I do, and because I'm often working or have other commitments during the day, by the end of the day I really feel it if I haven't been able to be active. So I really enjoy just going out for a walk for an hour or two, and particularly in the summer, particularly with these beautiful evenings. And last night I was out again, and the moon was almost full, and it was just so lovely. And as you say, it's an opportunity to really listen to teaching, listen to worship, and actually really use that time with God. So I really related to what you were saying, just a way to be active and to hopefully steward my body well, but also to be engaged with God during those times. It's really precious time, actually. So I really enjoy it as well. But Richard, why don't we begin our discussion with a video? This is all about the health benefits of exercise. We know that it's good for our immunity and well-being, but this is a video that really breaks down why exercise is so good for us. So we'll go to this video now about the benefits of exercise, and we'll be back with you to talk about the topic further. Welcome back to Our Mornings. Well, the benefits of exercising regularly there in that video, and we're going straight to our resident retired GP for his thoughts on what we saw there. Richard, what did you think?
Well, I love that actually. All about exercise. Everybody should do exercise. It's good for you. It makes you feel better. It makes you. It counters anxiety and depression far better than any medications that doctors can give you. It keeps all our joints moving and helps to keep us a little bit slimmer. It just puts everything. It's just very good for you. By the way, if you get up, if you do a lot of sedentary work, I found it actually helps to get up early and do some exercise, maybe at 7 o'clock in the morning before you start work. And I bet you'll find you'll achieve far more in the day having actually done some exercise first than you would if you just started exercise just having done nothing. And I was absolutely addicted to exercise. There were a group of us. We belonged to 2 separate running clubs, and we would, as a group, travel around. There was a lady, just a friend, and we used to run together every day for 10. We used to run 10 miles a day, every day for 15 years. Virtually every day, and there were a lot of other people who knew we ran together and we joined us. There were a whole group of us, and we went around. I showed these before the break, but we all collected all these things, which doesn't mean you're very clever. It just means you've run marathons or half marathons. But it was very social because I was really good friends with all of these people. And we were just, we called ourselves the gang. We were a gang. We just went around running marathons. That's what we did.
That's brilliant, Richard. So not only is exercise good for our physical health, but it's also good for social well-being.
Absolutely.
In the sense that you make a lot of friends.
Yes.
I love that. Well, while we're talking about this theme of the benefits that come from exercise, we actually have another brilliant video coming up. Now, this centres on heart health because we know, well, you're talking about running, and we know that that is brilliant for heart health. It's one of the best exercises that we can do for cardiovascular fitness. Now, this video highlights the way that exercise is so good for the heart muscle and the cardiovascular systems of the body. It's also a way of actually really filling us with awe about the way that God has designed our bodies. It's just incredibly well done, and it must be by an Australian producer because at the end there are some health guidelines that are offered in relation to Australian statistics, so that's also quite helpful to look at as well. So we'll go to this video now, all about heart health and the way exercise benefits our hearts and cardiovascular system, and be back with you really soon. Welcome back to Morning as well. A really great video there about the benefits of exercise, particularly when it comes to our hearts and the functioning of our cardiovascular system. Really well done, that video, I thought. And Richard, you're going to share with us now more about how the cardiovascular system works.
Well, just a little bit. The cardiovascular system is absolutely extraordinary because we have 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our bodies, and we have this heart, which is about the size of your fist, if you like, but in the center of your chest, and it pumps. The purpose of it is to get all the blood circulating around the body and then through the lungs to oxygenate it, the hemoglobin inside all those little flat saucer-shaped little red blood cells. It picks up hemoglobin, picks up oxygen, it becomes oxyhemoglobin. But the extraordinary thing is if you were able to mark just one single red blood cell, just one, if you were to put a radioactive trace on it, you'll find that that red blood cell is whizzing around the whole body, up to your brain, all through your fingers, and then your legs, then through your kidneys and your liver and everything else, and back where it started after 1 minute. It takes 1 minute for the red blood cell to go around the whole body. It just takes 1 minute. So it's an extraordinary. Of course, when you're exercising, it goes around much, much faster than that. People who exercise a lot, like Howard Conda, who founded Revelation TV with lovely Leslie, he plays golf. He doesn't play golf. He plays football all the time, and he announced about a couple of weeks ago that his resting heart rate is about 35, which is very slow. But that's because he's so fit. So if you're very fit, instead of having a normal blood a heart rate of about 70, it'll go down to about 35. Of course, when you exercise, it goes up much faster than that. Just a little bit, but the cardiovascular system is totally supernatural. Your brain needs oxygen. If you stop, if your brain doesn't receive oxygen for 4 seconds, you lose consciousness straight away. That's how important the cardiovascular system is.
Richard, that is so helpful. I really enjoyed what you shared there. Actually, just a couple of things to say about that. It's so great that you shared about Howard, because Howard is amazing actually with his football playing. I remember him saying that actually when he plays, a lot of the younger guys actually find it hard to keep up with him, which is incredible. Like, he's always been a very avid player all through the years that I've worked with the channel. It's just, I think it's really, really great. And I know that Leslie and Lorna were going to the gym for a while as well. I think it was at the New Year, or maybe it was before that, but I thought that's really great how they kind of worked as a team to kind of encourage each other with their fitness too, which was really good. But what you shared about the oxygen uptake and actually the oxygen, how cells become oxygenated, if it oxygenated, yes. Yeah. And I was thinking about the way that when I study and become actually quite tired from concentrating for so long, the very best thing that I've learnt to do is not reach for a cup of coffee, but actually try and go to the gym for an hour. And the concentration that happens after that, my ability to think clearly, to feel energized, to be attentive, it's unbelievable. It's a miracle working almost. So it was really helpful for you explaining about how the blood takes in more oxygen and how that really benefits our brain and concentration.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I found the same. Exercise is much better than caffeine.
Well, Richard, why don't we talk about another benefit of exercise? Now, we did touch on this before, but I know that you wanted to delve more deeply into this, and that is the release of endorphins, the happy hormone, into the bloodstream. Would you be able to talk about that and introduce our next video?
Well, it might be helpful to see the video first, if that's possible, and then briefly talk about it afterwards, because it's about endorphins, the chemicals released by our brain, basically, which makes it the happy hormone.
Sit up nice and tall. There you go. Chin up. That's good.
Retiree Doug Zell traded his workplace for a workout place. The gym is his safe haven and all-natural stress reliever.
Once you come over here and start sweating, you forget about everything.
Studies show Americans are more stressed out than ever before. Instead of relying on medicinal mood enhancers, people might want to think twice about a good, sweaty workout. We all know exercise can help you drop pounds and gain muscle, but new research suggests you may be able to work your way towards happiness.
Definitely. Whenever you are stressed out, you can exercise and it will release endorphins into your brain chemically and it'll make you feel better.
Endorphins are one of the latest fitness buzzwords, sometimes called a natural painkiller. They're the body's feel-good chemical.
It's a naturally occurring hormone. Endorphins are in the brain, so they are released through a pleasure center.
The more intense the exercise, the better, according to Heather Parker, a fitness trainer at the Wellness Center of Cape Coral.
It could be a fitness class like body combat or Zumba, or it could be weight training, as long as it's somewhat intense exercise.
It's that feeling sometimes called runner's high.
It has happened to me, and when you're really into a workout and really sweating hard, it almost feels like you leave your body and you don't feel the workout at all.
Experts find the chemical release may also ease mild depression. Age or fitness level shouldn't be a barrier.
Anybody can experience these types of benefits. If you are very sedentary, what you can do is just start with a nice walking program.
The pursuit of happiness, just one more reason to make time for exercise. For Lee Memorial Health System, I'm Amy Osher.
So that was a little bit about endorphins, the happy hormone that's released during exercise. And it's a very real thing because, as I said, I mentioned I used to do a lot of running and people were addicted. Well, I was completely addicted to this buzz which you get after running. And that's why I couldn't go for a single day without doing a long run. But there are other benefits of exercise. It reduces your blood pressure. It helps to keep the weight off. It keeps your blood sugar down. It reduces your blood cholesterol. It keeps your muscles all active. It keeps the cartilage in all your joints active and stops you getting arthritis. Some people think exercise causes arthritis. Actually, it doesn't. Exercise actually prevents arthritis, providing it's not the too much of the pounding type of exercise. So if you're going to do a lot of long distance running, it's best to keep off pavements and roads. It's rather better to go on grass. If you want to be to do in the gym, you can do non-impact. I use an elliptical trainer because that's completely non-impact on your joints. But anyway, the benefits of exercise are huge, and 1 in 4 of us get anxiety and depression during our adult lifetimes, and by far the best, it's now been accepted by psychiatrists and the medical profession generally, that the single best treatment for anxiety